Good morning. Hey, we have a great show today. I'm really excited about lots of things that are going to apply to lots of people. You know, there's so much information out there. There's just such a wealth of information and interesting things to look at that I just feel privileged. I mean, the world of nature just spreads out before us and says, look at this, this is related to me, this is related to you, and it's just an absolutely wonderful, wealthy world out there. And one of the things we're going to be talking about this morning is a topic called systemic enzymes. And enzymes are things that work throughout our body, and we're going to show you how important they are. But first, what I want to do is I want to take a little bit of break, and I want to tell you about our weight loss seminar on Tuesday evenings at 6:30. This is something that is important for a lot of you out there. The weight loss problem of getting the weight off with the obesity epidemic. There's just a couple epidemics going on now that are maybe as important, maybe more important. The opioid epidemic, of course, is something that we help people with also because if you're taking the opioid drugs for some reason, for example, usually it's pain, you need to handle that pain as you're getting off the drug. In other words, if you've got horrible back pain, or you're getting migraines, or if you've got some other constant chronic pain, you need to make sure that you handle that problem as you're getting off of the pain medication. Otherwise, the tendency is you're going to want to go right back to the pain medication. So that's something that chiropractic does for so many conditions, particularly if they're involved with musculoskeletal problems, joint problems. And so, handle that. Come in to the Welcome to Health Center and handle that problem first as you're getting off of the opioids. But the obesity epidemic is something that, of course, has been building for decades now, and it's kind of reached the pinnacle. I mean, it's not something that's growing as much as it used to be, but because, frankly, the people can't even walk sometimes if they get too heavy. But you're still out there and you've got knee problems, you've got hip problems, you've got all these things, and it's something that you need to handle, something you need to take care of. We at the Welcome to Health Center, I mean, I'm here every Saturday morning, and a lot of you people are loyal listeners, and I really appreciate that. But, I'm here for you folks, and when you come over to the Welcome to Health Center, I'm there for you there also. I show up, and as long as you can show up, we can get the weight off of you. So that's something that's very, very important. Our incredible weight loss coaches, the primary coach is Kay, and she is just absolutely phenomenal. She's been doing this for years now. In fact, the clinic has been doing it since 2010. So we really know what we're doing. It's not something that, this is our first rodeo or anything like that. We really know what we're doing. But I'll tell you what, before we get into the systemic enzymes, let's take a quick break and hear from our sponsor. Hey, I'll tell you, systemic enzymes. Enzymes is kind of a mysterious, a mysterious topic because people don't really understand what they do, what they're for, and they're used in industry, they're used in the health world. Our body would not even, our life and the life of all animals on Earth wouldn't even be possible without enzymes. So let's just talk about it just on a chemical level first, because one of the things I noticed when I was studying chemistry in college and in my education at Palmer was that when we were doing lab work, we would sometimes add an enzyme into the chemical reaction, and all of a sudden the chemical reaction would just take off. And before that, in studying the process, they would say, well, either you add the enzyme or you've got to heat this beaker up to like 600 degrees centigrade, which is really, really hot. 100 degrees centigrade is boiling. So, I mean, we got a lot of heat on this chemical to get the reaction to go. Now, obviously, if that particular reaction was something in our body, which, by the way, it was, you would have to heat yourself up or get in a hot environment. You'd have to basically be at one of those volcanic vents in order to get the chemistry going, or you'd have to jump into a volcano in order to get the reactions in your body to go so you could have the reactions that you need for life. And of course, that's ridiculous. That just is not going to happen. So what do enzymes do then? Well, enzymes are little chemical bundles, and they are kind of rearrangement units what they do is they're like little machines, and they will grab the chemical, one chemical, and they'll grab the other chemical, and they'll orient them. They'll put them into exactly the right position so that the chemical reaction takes place. Otherwise, it's just kind of random. You know, they're going all over the place, and they're, you know, just it's chance whether they bump into each other or not. But the enzyme actually grabs it, and just like very carefully, you know, threads the needle, so to speak. I remember when I was a little kid, one of my vivid memories when I was probably about 4 years old is I went over to Mrs. Swanson's house. She babysat me, and we shucked corn, and we did that, and then she wanted to sew something, and she said, well, you know, she had gray hair. She's probably about 80 or so, and she said, you know, I just can't thread these needles anymore. And she said, could you do it for me? And of course, I picked up the thread and the needle, and I just poked it right through. It was no problem whatsoever. Well, that's kind of the way enzymes work. They pick the chemicals up, and they put them in exactly the right orientation, and then the chemical reaction goes. And because of that, you can do chemical reactions for life at amazingly low temperatures, you know, 98.6. You can do all the chemistry you need. Well, so that's how important enzymes are in terms of keeping us going and keeping all the chemistry in our body going properly. Well, what happens though when you don't have the enzymes you need? At about 27 years old or so, we actually start going down. You know, we're ramping up, we're doing great, and then our ability to produce the enzymes we need starts kind of waning a little bit. Plus, in the American diet these days, we don't take in the enzymes we need, because a lot of those enzymes we need to carry on life and to carry on life in a healthful way come from plants. That's why this plant-based diet thing, you know, is so big. It's not that eating meat is so bad, it's that not having the plants is so bad. In fact, I saw some research about 2 weeks ago that said that if you have the proper plant diet, the downside of eating meat is vitiated. It goes away. You kind of end up at just like you would if you were only eating plants, if you're eating the plants. So eating a plant-based diet, or eating lots of plants, lots of, you know, vegetables and lettuce and the green things and the colorful vegetables, doing that along with eating meat is something that is extraordinarily healthy. Why is that? The reason is because the plants contain a wealth of enzymes. They contain those little machines that carry on the chemistry. They're like little chemistry sets. They orient the molecules so that the reactions go quickly. And the same enzyme can do trillions of reactions in a very short period of time. And that's frankly what we need, is trillion, okay? So what types of things do we take systemic enzymes for? Because systemic enzymes are different than just taking, for example, digestive enzymes. In the ideal protein protocol diet, we encourage our people, in fact, we actually require our people to take digestive enzymes. And what do those enzymes do? Well, they take the food that the person eats and they break the food down into the component parts. One of the things you do is when you eat protein, you need to break the protein down into amino acids. And that's done by the acid in your stomach, the hydrochloric acid in your stomach, which, by the way, is not a bad thing. The hydrochloric acid in your stomach, a strong acid, is a great thing. And your system protects you from that acid, and it just chews the food up into these small little bits of chemistry called amino acids. But along with that are the pepsin enzymes and things like that that actually make that reaction go quicker so that the digestion of your food is done within a reasonable number of hours. Okay, so enzymes are sometimes digestive. Very, very important. You know, papaya is one of the famous things for digestive enzymes. But what about systemic enzymes? Systemic enzymes are different because you don't take those enzymes with your food. You take those enzymes independent of your food. Usually, you know, after you've eaten and after an hour and a half or so, or 45 minutes before you eat again, because those enzymes, you want those to be available, and you want them to go directly into your bloodstream as much as possible, and then those enzymes are available for the chemistry throughout the rest of your body. Now, some of us have some challenges. One of the challenges involves we actually, as our enzyme equipment kind of wanes, we don't have as many enzymes as we would like to have as we age. What happens is that our ability to remodel our structure in our body starts to fall down also. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a couple different things. I'm going to talk about ligament and tendon hardening and the shrinkage of those things because we can't remodel them because we're low on enzymes. But first, I want to take one more break, and then we'll finish out the show. We're talking about systemic enzymes on the show this morning. It's something that is a very important topic. And enzymes are things that actually speed up our chemistry, things that make it so that we can carry out life at our own body temperature. You need to have it at least that because you do need a little heat, but it's something that, we carry out. But before we do that, we do have a caller. So I'm going to let Ruth be on the line. Ruth, hi, good morning. Yeah. Yes, Ruth, speak up a little bit. We're not getting your full voice here. Just a little bit, but even get closer to the microphone on your phone if you can. Well, of course, celery juice. Celery is one of those plants. We talked about that, and celery will be, have a lot of enzymes in it and things like this. So yeah, celery juice is something that's good. One of the things, though, that when you juice things, juicing is good, but if you juice them, you do miss out on a lot of the fiber involved. And the fiber is good for, number one, digestion. It's good for moderation of the blood sugars down to reasonable levels, and it of course helps the movement of all of the food stuff through the digestive system and out the other end. So the celery is a very good idea. I'm not sure if I would just juice it though. Make sure you eat some of it with the fiber and things also. Yes. Well, the first thing you want to do is it mostly joint pain you're experiencing? Right. Well, of course, since I haven't examined your back, I can't really tell you what's causing it. A lot of back pain is caused by disc problems. Other joint problems in the low back and mid back are, real bad. But the main thing is to get in, give the Welcome to Health Center a call, 309-764-2115. And that number is given at the end of the program again, too. But give the Welcome to Health Center a call, make an appointment, let me go, examine the problem and let you know what I feel the problem is. And then we can move on from there. Because just pain, of course, you're doing exactly the right thing. Just because you have pain doesn't mean that pain medication is the right solution for you. And I really applaud you for realizing that. But still, pain is a warning signal. Pain is something that tells you that you need to get some help. And we would love to help you, Ruth, in this problem. That's something that we do every day. And we'll find out as close as we can what your problem is. And if we can't find out, then we'll, find somebody else who can. But we have tremendous success with back pain particularly. That's what we do. The enzymes, by the way, can be an assistance on that also because as we're going to be going through, in fact, I'm going to say goodbye to you right now and then listen to the rest of the program because I'm going to focus on what you're talking about and you'll see that sometimes the systemic enzymes can be helpful on this, okay? You're welcome. Ruth is mentioning something here that's a very common problem. And since the program is on enzymes, we're going to be focusing on that. Although At other points, we'll be focusing on the actual joint problems that cause pain and the muscle problems that cause pain in the low back also. But in terms of enzymes, it's like this. When you have ligaments and tendons that are fibrosing, namely when they are becoming denser and they start to shrink very often. And when they shrink, they literally pull bones into bad positions. This is very notable in terms of bunions. If you've got a toe that is starting to lean inward and you got that big bump on the side where the toe used to come out straight, bunions are a ligament that shortens on the inside of the big toe. And as that shortens, it pulls the toe in, and that's a problem. Another one is the Dupuytren's contracture, where the little finger and the ring finger of the hand starts being pulled down into the palm of the hand. And you may know somebody who, when you shake their hand, they just shake with their two fingers and their thumb. And this is something that is very, very common and something that happens as a result of the shrinking of the tendons. Well, enzymes are some of the things that actually work on those tendons in order to remodel them. What happens is the tendons, as they shrink, they are actually laying down layer after layer of new tendon on top of old tendons. And then they shrink down and cause problems. Well, when you have the proper amount of enzymes, what happens is the enzymes go in there. In fact, there's a little cell, one of your cells. It's an amoeboid type of cell. It kind of crawls along, and it crawls along that tendon and dissolves the old tendinous tissue, the old fibrotic tissue, this tissue that's shrinking, and it crawls along that, and it actually eats it. It takes it away, and it digests it with enzymes. So when you supply those little cells with enzymes, they actually can start doing their job again, and they actually youthify your fibrotic tissue. They make it young again by taking away the old fibrotic tissue, and then another cell comes in and lays in fresh, flexible fibrotic tissue. This is something that's very dear to my heart. Since I had the onset, my grandfather had his fingers all down toward his palm, you know, he couldn't move them at all. My brother had the same type of problem developing, and I started developing the same problem, and I started doing the systemic enzymes, and that took care of it basically, okay? And I've done other shows on this, but I just want to mention it because when it comes to enzymes and some of Ruth's problems, perhaps, we don't know yet at this point, but some of those problems can be due to ligaments and tendons starting to fibrose and shrinking, and all of a sudden the balance is gone. Because when you have a joint, you need a balanced pulling on all sides. It'd be kind of like this. What would happen if you had a radio tower? And you know, radio towers have those guidelines coming down. They got those really taut wires coming down to hold up this thin, spinnacle of steel that goes up. Now, if you just had that thing going up without the guy wires, that would be blown down with a small breath of air. But because of those guy wires, and the tension is even on all of them, you have a tower that with very little steel structure, very tall, is very resistant to wind and impact problems, okay? Well, the same thing was with your spine. If all of your guy wires, namely your ligaments and tendons, are evenly taut around a particular joint and appropriately taut, then that joint is stable. If you have some that are shrinking on one side, then you get something like a bunion situation where the toe is pulled in and things are all out of balance and, you know, pain, et cetera, et cetera. Well, when it comes to the spine, the same things are true. Scoliosis, as a matter of fact, which is a lateral curvature of the spine. Scoliosis is when you look at a person from the back, they've got curves in their back that are inappropriate. That's because very often muscles on one side are spasming, and the other side, they're not even functioning. They're not firing at all. So you have hyper firing on one side and hypo firing on the other, and you get a curvature being pulled into the spine. Well, when you have ligaments, same kind of thing can happen, that when they fibrose, when they shorten. So what we do in the practice is, of course, we adjust and we find out how much can be done with just getting the bones moving again, getting the joints moving, getting the cartilage healthy again, making sure the nutrition in the joint is proper. And then if we need to, if things are not coming around properly, then we might actually recommend systemic enzymes, because we want to give those little amoeboid cells, those little cells that crawl along the fibrotic tissue and dissolve or digest the fibrotic tissue, the old stuff, so that new stuff can be laying in there. We want to make sure that those little cells have the optimal amount of enzymes to do what they do. And that's what systemic enzymes, frankly, are all about. By the way, systemic enzymes do also, this has been researched and proven, they also do diminish pain. Now, I'm not exactly sure of the mechanism of that. I can speculate on it. I think that what happens is that they actually, well, actually, I do know the mechanism of it now that I remember. What happens is this: when you react to a bad situation, a damaged joint, what happens is you get immune complexes in your bloodstream because your damaged joint actually sends out signaling molecules. It sends out cytokines to the immune system so that it can ramp up inflammation. And when that inflammation is ramped up, then you get the healing process going on. Now, chronic inflammation is not good, and that's what leads to chronic pain very often. But acute inflammation, inflammation that responds to an injury, is extremely good. Without it, we'd all be dead. So we get an extremely good situation with acute inflammation where the immune system is activated. Now, if it's activated long enough, what happens is that you have these immune complexes in the blood all the time, and the body kind of gets used to it. And those immune complexes then can actually perpetuate inflammation even beyond the time that is required to heal the bad situation. Now, by the way, some people are genetically more likely to have these immune complexes circulating in their blood longer than other people are. Some people have a hard time shutting down inflammation. And since we have been doing genetic counseling in the practice, we realize this because now we know what genes are involved with ramping up inflammation, the on switches, and we know what genes are involved in quelling down or ramping down, turning off the immune system. And some people tend to allow immune responses to last way too long. Well, one of the ways of calming down an immune response is with systemic enzymes. Because as these proteins from the immune system, these immune complexes circulate, some of them get a little older, etc., and the body again needs enzymes to get rid of them. It needs enzymes in some of the white blood cells that are circulating through the system to actually identify the immune complexes that are not working very well, or even they're hyperactivated, too much, they're too busy, and to take them out. And if you don't have those enzymes, then they just keep circulating. So that's another function of the enzymes. So enzymes can actually reduce pain by balancing the system out. Now, again, if you don't have the enzymes, your body can't do that. If you do have the enzymes, then your body can do that. And that's one of the functions of actually supplementing systemic enzymes, is that you are able to, if you have an overactive inflammatory system, you can naturally calm it down by supplying your immune system, those little amoeboid cells again, the white blood cells. You can actually equip them with the right enzymes to do their job more efficiently. And one of the big differences between being 25 and being 70, frankly, is the availability of enzymes by those cells. They want to do their job, but they don't have the enzymes to carry out their function in the proper way or carry it out completely. And so that is one of the best things you can do. Rheumatoid factors, rheumatoid arthritis, etc. Some of those problems can be helped with systemic enzymes. A lot of the autoimmune conditions can be helped with systemic enzymes. Why autoimmune? Because autoimmune genetics will usually let the inflammation last way too long, and the inflammatory cells, the defensive cells start attacking tissues in the body as opposed to just attacking the actual enemy. So what do you need? You need a way of taking those out of the system. You need a way of making sure that they are no longer out there, tearing things up, and make sure that they are appropriately eliminated so that you do not experience a sustained immune response. Now notice we're not talking about killing pain here. We're talking about improving function. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about restoring function in all of these cases, not in terms of just reducing pain. So keep that in mind and give us a call at the Welcome to Health Center. We'd love to help you. Bye-bye.